Hey there, this is Brad and Matthew. Actually, it's Matthew Brad.
Okay.
We're here in Newport Beach, California at Newport, bringing you another episode of the Newport Current. This is a big one. We're talking health, we're talking wellness, we're talking life. This is going to be rad. You already know Brad and I, so Tanya, why don't you kick it off for us? A little bit about you, a little bit of background.
Hi, my name's Tanya Denny. I am a naturopathic doctor. I work through my residency at UCI and have stayed in the area and opened private practice here in integrative medicine. I mostly focus on neurology and specifically Parkinson's disease.
That's incredible. That's a lot. JP, how about you?
That's where I come in. I have Parkinson's for 26 plus years. And I met Tanya at the Michael J. Fox Foundation event 3 years ago, I think. And there I was already taking Mucuna, and she's the Mucuna doctor, that expert. So I'd like to hear more from her. And for you also listening in or watching the show, you can see what it can do for you. Because I was in 2 years ago, still in a wheelchair. Now I can ride my bike, drive around town, and do all the stuff that I want to do for freedom. And so therefore, one of the things I do is sail with Christian, my best friend.
Christian, what do you got? That's a beautiful story. I can't wait to dig into that more. Christian, how about you?
Hi, everybody. My name is Christian. I'm the founder of California Inclusive Sailing. And I started this really for JP here, a friend since the 80s from Switzerland. We've been snowboarding, and when I moved to Newport, he got this Parkinson's disease. And we started the sail program to try and keep JP out in nature and active. And it's one of our great little programs, and it's 10 years old this year.
Wow, right on.
California Inclusive Sailing. It's our 10-year anniversary.
Wow, beautiful story. We need to dig into that a little bit more as well.
Yes, we do.
This is great. So now, JP, you had mentioned Mucuna. So Tanya, and how it's had a pretty significant impact on your life. And I know that we all want to unpack that quite a bit. So I think we should jump right into the deep end here. Can you tell us a little bit more about Mucuna? And I'm memorizing this because Mucuna Matanya here. Tell us a little bit more about Mucuna.
Mucuna pruriens is a tropical legume, so a bean plant that grows actually like all over the world in subtropical conditions. It has the highest source of levodopa of any plant we've discovered. So levodopa is the precursor to dopamine, and unfortunately in a Parkinson's diagnosis, that's one of the keystones is dopamine dysfunction. So we have a plant that has a natural precursor to dopamine and is able to cross the blood-brain barrier. So that's also pretty important. And it's a plant that can be used to offset some of the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. So that's kind of been a labor and passion of mine for the past 15 years. Studied it around the world, collected seeds. We've studied the HPLC, so kind of the chromatography of the plant and some of the quality control of what's out there. And then ended up growing it here organically because I'm just really passionate about the plant. And so that's part of what I do is botanical medicine.
How did you find out about this?
Unfortunately, my Alzheimer's is kind of runs in my family, so neurological diseases was at the forefront of where I wanted to go into medicine. Prevention's a big piece, so knowing if there's anything we can do to slow prevention in neurological diseases was kind of my passion when I was looking at medical schools or PhD programs. So that's how I got into naturopathic medicine. And it dawned on me when at the time there were statistics that Parkinson's was going to double in the next 10 years. So this was in 2010. And that kind of shook me. So I realized we needed to think outside the box maybe. And I had this passion for plants and botanicals, and through kind of cross-referencing and research came across Mucuna, which has been used actually like traditionally for 3,500 years.
Okay.
So long history of traditional use for shaking palsies in Ayurvedic medicine. And then kind of just started doing research and knocking on people's door at Oregon Health and Science University saying, hey, can we study this plant? I'm curious about it. And met some PhD researchers, and we actually did some murine models and showed some really interesting data. And that's kind of what fueled my passion too throughout, where we were able to see some positive like potential restoration model.
Beautiful.
And then
Tanya, did you say that Parkinson's projected to double?
it was in 2010 even. So that was, and now we're still on that same trajectory.
Why are we able to
unfortunately.
project something like that? I mean, it seems like you would have to
Yeah.
know some of the causes. It seems like
The
you have to know.
epidemiological, research. Unfortunately, we do know now potentially that's man-made disease from exposure. We're thinking here like trichloroethylene, solvents, paraquat, these chemicals that we
Wow.
know that are drivers and that we're exposed to, unfortunately. And then epigenetics. So some people are going to be more predisposed
prone
to
to it.
some of the harms of those chemicals than others. But those are some major heavy hitters. And as we know, we're more chemicals are entering our world all the time, endocrine
Yeah.
disruption and things like that. So,
Do you have any advice for just those of us that maybe aren't dealing with Parkinson's in our life or not connected to it? But any advice for those of us that just want to make sure we're as healthy and our relatives and our family, our kids, our children are as healthy as possible?
yeah, that's kind of a big passion of mine. I have people I work with with Parkinson's, but then their kids too. So I'm like, okay, what can we do to slow this or prevent this in the next generation? Because that's really important. If we know the causes, what can we do to slow the curve? Dairy is actually unfortunately a big one.
Really?
So dairy is very much connected. The more dairy you eat in your lifetime, the higher the increased risk for this unfortunate neurological condition. So one thing you could do for your kids is kind of remove that, find alternative sources,
Yeah.
cashew nut yogurt, things like that.
Okay.
Eating organically, know the Dirty Dozen, Clean 15.
Yes. Can we run down that real quick? I find a lot of people
Yeah.
don't know the Dirty Dozen Clean 15.
Yeah.
That's an incredible list on its own.
Yep,
and
exactly.
People can chat GPT that
Yep.
something a little bit more, but maybe give us a little bit of exposure to what that is real quick.
Yeah, exactly. So just even Google like the Clean 15 Dirty Dozen. So the top foods that you want to avoid or make sure to eat organically only if you can, because of the residual pesticide exposure and contamination from insecticides and herbicides and things that we know, like we're saying, potentially can drive Parkinson's, like paraquat exposure.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, a lot of different fruits are sprayed at various levels. So like blueberries, like don't eat them unless you can buy them organic, like
Yes.
very serious about that. Strawberries as well. Usually things with a peel like a banana are less
Little more
chemical
protected.
residual.
Mhm.
Yeah. So quick Google search on those and just that one shift can make a major difference in a household.
That's awesome. I mean, who knows? You could have just saved lives right there. So that's rad.
Yeah.
And JP, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? And I mean, maybe even kind of take us back, a few years. You've been having, symptoms and going through this. You said 26 years.
Correct.
That is a long time.
It's a lifetime.
It is a lifetime.
Half a lifetime.
Half a lifetime.
Yeah, and for me it was really clear what happened. I rented a house on Harbor Island Road, Newport Beach, but there was a big problem with ants.
Oh.
So the ants were invading the house, so we had a fumigator come, and they did exterminator come, and they took the light sockets off the walls, and then pumped the wall full with the powder to kill the ants.
Yeah.
They didn't realize it was an older house. One of the light sockets was on the outside of the closet. They pumped the closet full with the powder. And then I came home from work, opened the closet, the whole cloud of this powder came. I fainted back on the bed. 3 months later I had my first symptoms.
No way.
Yes. So it's clear that there's some chemical reaction that caused it. Or my ex-wife, my first wife, the stress.
Yeah.
Maybe we should scrap that. It's stressful. It's definitely anything stressful aggravates it. As you see right now, I'm also excited, so the symptoms flare up.
Yes.
But that's my journey from 26 years ago. It's already 27 years ago that I had the exposure. And 3 months later I had the first symptoms, and then I went to an internist. So there was something stuck in my pinky, was twitching. So I went to an internist and they said, no, we don't know what it is. You should go see a neurologist. And so I went to see a neurologist in Newport Beach, Fashion Island. They had me walk down the hallway and then do all kinds of physical, touch your nose, all this. And then they said, "Do you need an MRI?" And then come back next week. I came back, had an 18-month-old baby, and we sat in the office and they said, "Yeah, sorry, we have Parkinson's disease. Here's a prescription, you can go home now, and there's nothing we can do." There was no Michael J. Fox Foundation, nobody. At my age, I was 32, so therefore there was no support or anything, but the research is concerned, there was nothing there. So therefore I was like left hanging, and within 6 months, all the acquaintances and friends that we had were also disappearing because they didn't know how to deal with it. And it was only a twitch in my pinky, and so I was like, I was gonna fill the prescription, and I was like, wait a minute, I should have taken medicine for twitching in my pinky. That's not gonna happen. After I took the first pill, it was Requip, and I was like, no, this is not the right way to do it. So therefore, I didn't take medicine until many years later, when I joined the organization where I had health insurance to pay for.
Yes.
So
I was just going to mention, I mean, beyond words, you know, we can't express, you know, enough how appreciative we are to be able to have you folks here today and be able to share your story. My question is for Tanya relative to JP's recovery per se after integrating Mucuna. Seems like it was very profound. Is that kind of indicative of what you see, or is JP more like a miracle, kind of anomalous in the sense that, you know, when he started, I think 3 years ago, started, you know, putting Mucuna in his water, that he was able to see strong, very strong, profound benefits relatively quickly?
Yeah, I will just say I didn't recently met JP, so I don't know his whole medical history. One from 22 years. So what I will say is in Parkinson's disease, there's like a deficit of dopamine. So you need the dopamine. So part of too with the absence of having medication, there was no like gas in the tank too. So that is kind of one kind of caveat I want to plug in there too. So when you're able to onboard some of the levodopa, which turns into dopamine from Mucuna, the body was able to then have access to dopamine. So that is a game changer usually for folks that have a Parkinson's diagnosis. And I do find that people will sometimes, are with good reasons too, don't start pharmaceuticals. So that's why people do go without medication. And then that's a natural progression of the disease if there's no dopamine. So people can have a lot of response when they onboard levodopa for dopamine.
Is Mucuna for everyone?
Oh, yeah, we want moderation is always best, and using it for purposes, like focusing on there's a lot of different constituents in the Mucuna plant. So it is used traditionally for men's health. It's used as an aphrodisiac. It's used to increase sperm quality. There's studies showing increased sperm motility. It's used I studied it in MCF breast cancer cell lines and showing cytotoxicity in medical school. I created an extract with it that we used in mice model studies that we showed the prevention of tyrosine hydroxylase breakdown. So there's some really interesting constituents in the plant that different people like using potentially with ADHD in children, if there's a dopamine dysregulation. So I'm really passionate about using the plant where it can be used in our non-pharmacological areas to also then work in synergistic. There are all of those amino acids, and there's glutathione, and there's other constituents in Mucuna that are also good for other pathways. And people might not even know that they're looking at, anybody watching this is actually looking at Mucuna happening right now. JP, what's in front of you here?
Go to the magic water. Magic water.
I love that.
It's alkaline water with a 3/4 scoop of Mucuna.
There you go.
Or L-Dopa. It's called L-Dopa. 100% pure. So it's very potent. But so I can tell you how I came to the Mucuna bean. Is because about 9 years ago, or 8 years ago, we'll give and take a couple of years, 26 years, so it's not a big deal. But I realized I was slowly dying. I was being poisoned by all the medicine, that I was taking 10 different medicines. And I knew there was something not right. Because you feel every day stomach ache when the medicine to absorb, it became more difficult to absorb every time. Doctors were saying, just take brain surgery, get DBS in your head. And I'm very scared, I'm a chicken, so that's not for me an option. Because you stay awake while they do the surgery in your brain. I don't like it, therefore don't come with it. Then the other thing is, every time I took medicine, it has to pass your stomach into the bloodstream, and therefore I get enormous stomach aches. And they had a solution for that, the medical world. They say, just have a big bore, like pump into your stomach, that pass your big intestine, and then pump the blood, the medicine straight into your body. And it's like, okay, what if I want to spontaneously go swimming or do something or have sport? I have this big thing hanging around, I have to clean it every day, and it's a big obstacle for me. So therefore, I was like, this is not an option for me either. And every year they make it smaller and smaller, and said, come back to me when it's so tiny that it's going to be skin.
Yeah.
And so therefore I have to eliminate the medicine. From 10 I reduced it to 3 medicine, and then I was like, my biggest problem is the cinnamon, and the absorption of cinnamon is too difficult. And therefore I was looking for an alternative, how to get L-Dopa, the dopamine into the brain. And I found out, before I had eaten the beans where they really smell horrific. What is the beans are called? Fava beans. Fava beans, you cook them, and they have a lot of dopamine in it, so I ate it, and it gave me a boost of spike of activity, but it wasn't smooth. So then I came with Mucuna bean, it's an alternative for L-Dopa, and therefore, that was 3 years ago, and ever since I don't have the stomach ache every time I take it.
Wow.
Base faster absorption, so therefore it's for me magic water.
Magic water.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Brad, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to
I see your
mention.
wheels turning.
No, I was going to mention the fact that Christian and JP met, through looking at holistically, right, different ways in which to be able to make an impact.
Beautiful.
So whether it's for Parkinson's, Christian heads up immersive sailing.
Yeah, we want to dive into that for sure.
Yeah, locally. So
That's rad. I mean, and we can kind of transition to that a little bit. We can always come back if there's things that you're thinking, Tanya or JP. So Christian, tell us a little bit about. So I'm a sailor. How long have you been sailing in Newport?
I started sailing when I was 7 in Geneva, Switzerland, where I was born.
Okay.
And always been skiing, and then I met JP really in the early 80s snowboarding in Switzerland.
Wow,
We
that's
became
awesome.
friends, and that was really our passion. And then we reconnected finally 30 years later here in Newport, and I saw JP's condition, and I'm like, we have to keep going outside because that's our passion. And we really think that the sun and the wind and a sailboat helps. We cycle
Yeah.
a lot also.
Beautiful.
And we garden. And so all of that we think is good for us. We feel good, so we do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of science. Tanya, you could probably speak to this as well. I think we probably all can. I know we're all outdoorsy in this particular room, and there's a lot of science about just being outside and the benefits that it has on your body in so many beautiful ways. So I can only imagine that something like that is great. So sailing, and you've got JP on board. You've got others. Can you give us just a little bit of background then, just kind of who you're trying to help and how it works, and maybe even a little bit about how people can get in touch and get connected?
Right. Well, it really started, California Inclusive Sailing started with one person. We're going to help JP, my
That's
dear
awesome.
friend, right? It has to be a passion. It has to be a passion project really to work,
Beautiful.
we realized. So we started with one person. Today we have 6 boats.
Wow.
In between California and Nevada in Park City, Utah.
Okay.
And that's part of the mission at California Inclusive Sailing is to promote inclusive outdoor recreation to underserved communities. By using the sailboat that we discovered in England, it's a 16-foot adaptive sailboat called the RS Venture, which we really believe in. So now we have 6 of these boats between California and Utah.
Wow.
And we just ordered 6 more 2 days ago. So
Wow.
it's
That's
part
insane.
of our, yeah, we just got a huge donation. We're really getting traction and going out there, especially here in Newport Beach, which has, 300 days of sunshine. It has a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit for all boats. So that's really also important for my program to kind of create a tranquil setting on the water, no chaos. And we have since then branched out with Special Olympic athletes, veterans from the Long Beach VA hospital next door here.
Wonderful.
Individuals, people have flown from Norway, Switzerland, Italy, Greece to sail with me. It's really getting a little bit of attention, and thanks for inviting us here today.
Yeah.
I was going to say, back to the, thank you.
Yeah.
I just had an additional question, obviously, for Tanya. 3,500 years, right? 3,500 years has been, Mucuna has been, at least awareness of.
Yep.
So, Tanya, what are you kind of doing, like, to, I guess, expedite awareness, right? What's kind of happening, and how close are we to making it, like, something that's relatively well-known?
Yeah, I think since 2010, there's definitely a lot more research, more awareness. A lot of people are, I just did like a podcast that's available online too that we can link that is just Mucuna specific.
Wonderful.
And I've been working on getting, because like the issue like 15 years ago is quality control, quality analysis, still is. Unfortunately, supplements are not regulated, so then therein lies the problem of standardization and quality control. Yeah. And so that's kind of where my passion, I've been like, all right, well, we're going to grow it. So we started a nonprofit, just official, like last week.
Congrats.
Thanks. So we're working to try to create a standardized organic, very important here, organic crop of Mucuna to be used with people and then formulate for different things. So that's kind of where I'm at. And personally, because it is a plant that has many uses and needs more awareness, but organic sourcing is important too when we go back to the topic about Parkinson's potentially being caused by some of these exposures. We need to then be very astute of how we're getting plant medicine. So organic is definitely top of the list.
Is this something we can just put in coffee?
And I mean, in South America, they call it Nescafé. So it's traditionally kind of ground up. The beans were as a coffee alternative.
Oh, wow.
So it has a lot of like indigenous and traditional uses all over the world. It's a really interesting legume and has a high like crude protein content. Some interesting studies were done in the 30s. It was used actually before the soybean to feed ruminant animals. So four-legged creatures, we were using it as a feed. So it has an agricultural kind of history in the U.S. that people aren't even aware of. So it is a really interesting plant. I'm working and hoping to, continue this project.
In other countries where, just to follow up on that a little bit, in other countries where it is more widely known, used in other areas, it sounds to me like those might also be other countries in which they don't have some of the chemicals that we have so prevalent here in everyday all of our foods. I mean, the fact that we had to talk about which vegetables we should be buying here in the States. I mean, not every country is dealing with those same pesticides that we are. Do you find there's a correlation in those other countries that the rate of Parkinson's is significantly less? Yeah,
we have studies now too where we have, unfortunately, like there's a great book, the Parkinson's Plan, that's come out. They're gonna on book tour here. They'll be here at Hoag the 26th, Dr. Dorsey and Dr. Oken, and it's about a lot of this environmental medicine, kind of essentially a call to action, like, hey, we know these are some of the drivers. We know if you live in a building with a dry cleaners, you're more likely to have Parkinson's. Wow. I had a patient yesterday, and her and the roommate that lived in, unfortunately, the building in college, both now have Parkinson's.
Wow.
And I hear, a patient that was like, oh yeah, my dad was in the textile industry, and we use those solvents, and we kind of played around in them, and he's like, I know exactly where I was exposed as a child. Onboarding things that we can do to prevent oxidation, decrease inflammation, some of those drivers, mitochondrial dysfunction and Parkinson's, as we just neurological resilience. So Mucuna is one plant that can help in that.
Can help with that.
Yeah.
We do have to kind of wind down here. I know we've all got a busy day ahead of us, but in particular, I know the three of you've got full days as well, and so really appreciate having you here. But
I don't have a full.
I mean, honestly, are you going to go swim the pier again today?
2:00.
Okay, yeah. Let's be real here.
Very mean.
But real quick, I do want to kind of end on the inclusive sailing component here. You mentioned a particular sailboat. How is that inclusive, and what if people want to? Well, first of all, if people want to donate, contribute to the program, I think that's incredible. So I'd love to know the website, and we can link to that. But also, in what way is it inclusive? In what way could other individuals that maybe be interested in sailing? Who is it you're looking to help and serve?
The 16-foot RS Venture has 2 adaptive seats that are side by side, designed by a rally car driver in England.
Okay.
And so you are really well seated with a nice backrest. The seats are designed for paraplegic or quadriplegic sailors.
I'm glad I asked.
So they keep you really in the seat. Since the 10 years we've sailed with this boat, we realized the seats are very comfortable for everybody.
Cool.
Including JP, who has Parkinson's, including the elderly, who need a very comfortable seat while sailing on a small sailboat.
Yeah.
It's really a very inclusive boat. It's also flat bottom.
Okay.
It's a high performance boat. It's 2 boats in one. You can take the seats out without any tools.
Okay.
And we have foot straps and a trapeze. So
Oh, wow, yeah.
we did one race in 2022 from Newport to Dana Point, 18 miles. We went 18 miles in 2 hours.
Wow.
We averaged 9 knots.
Yeah, that's good.
We had the boat surfing at 15 knots.
The boat was
often.
Flying.
So it's a spectacular boat.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'm really glad I asked that question. I was really curious. So right there, if you're out there and you're thinking like sailing is a passion, a hobby, something you've always wanted to experience, I know from the two of us, I'll tell you right now, it's amazing. And JP, like if you just you're a sailor now, you just adopted it, you love it.
I love it. Yeah, it's very therapeutic.
It is.
And it's all free for anybody.
No
Anybody
way.
can join us from sailing.
This is
I grew up
beautiful.
with sailing when I grew up in Holland, in windsurfing, so it's my passion. The most important thing is for people with Parkinson's or any disease, get out of the house.
Yes.
Be outside, be amongst people. It's the only way that you're going to survive the long term.
Well said. That's probably the best way we could end this. That was beautiful. Anybody have anything before we close up? Well, we hope,
Thank you.
thank you very much. We hope you like this. Be sure to like, share, comment, follow for more. We're really happy to be able to share this message. And I know, as Brad said it, just to echo, like, thank you so much for taking your time to be here today. This means a lot, and can't wait to get the word out on the street about this and about Mucuna, and just share a little bit more about your stories and backgrounds. I think it's pretty incredible. All right, that's all we
Thank
got
you.
for now. Thank you. We'll see you.